Hi, it's Steve with Coin Stuff I Like, and I'm bringing another video on my Carson City collection, and in particular, Carson City stuff I like. Um, this time, I'll bring you part 7 of the graded silver dollar portion of my collection. And last time I covered the Morgan dollar starting in 1878 through 1881. This time, we're going to cover 1882 to 1885. Now, I just want to go through a little bit of background um, during this period. Um, we'll come back to it, but this period was probably, particularly from 82 to 84, was the most productive period uh, on a sustained level at the Carson City Mint in its entire operation. Um, Now, some of the background during this time, um, leading up to 1884, there was in national politics there was a lot of division between a bimetal monetary policy, meaning gold and silver, versus the gold standard folks, and it tended to break down a little bit by party lines, with the Republicans more bimetal supporters and the Democrats more gold standard supporters in general. Um, and up until the election of 1884, for the entire operation of the Carson City Mint, there had been Republican in office, of the presidential office. So that guided the policies, monetary policies. But in 1884, there was an election, and a Democrat was elected in November of 1884. We'll come back to that. Um, Now, go back to 1878 when the Bland-Altman Act created uh, the U.S. silver dollar once again. Remember, as trade dollars up until this period of time, and they're intended for foreign commerce primarily. Um, and the silver dollar as a denomination in the United States was not authorized, even though trade dollars had legal tender status. Silver dollar was not a denomination that U.S. produced for its own circulation. So in 1878, that got changed by the Bland-Altman Act, and part of the Bland-Altman Act was legislation that required 24 million silver dollars to be produced every year. That's 2 million a month, and this was uh, legislation that was enacted as part of Bland-Altman Act, and that put all the mints in business of producing silver dollars at a high rate. Now, Carson City paled by comparison to Philadelphia production, San Francisco production, and starting in 1879, New Orleans production. So all three of those mints had much higher annual production of silver dollars than Carson City. But nevertheless, because of this requirement for 24 million silver dollars to be produced annually by the combination of the four mints, 3 mints in 78, 4 mints beyond that, silver dollars started piling up in the vaults, and they weren't really used in the East. They're more used in the West for commerce and such. And so consequently, they're accumulating in vaults. Now, layer on top of this that because of that, and because of the gold standard people not wanting silver dollars to be produced at all, these things led to growing clamor for changing that rate of production, and either slowing the production or stopping it altogether. So this was always in the news, and it was coming up as something that was being battled out in Congress. And then, of course, the layer on top of that, there's people that had it out for Carson City Mint. So I mentioned this in the last video where they're looking to shut the Carson City Mint down and open a mint in Missouri or somewhere. During this period of 1882, 1884, this period, they're talking about, well, let's close Carson City Mint and open a Los Angeles Mint. That was in 1882. That got defeated. 1883 or 1884, I can't remember. There was another one, let's close the Carson City Mint and open a Denver Mint. And that got shut down. So these are the things that are going on at a national level. Locally, if you remember early on in some of my early parts, I talked about the Comstock Lode silver production peaked in 1877. So it started in 1859 and just grew and grew and grew to 1877. By that point, it peaked, and then it started tapering off, and it was pretty dramatically off by these particular years, 82 to 85. But that's sort of mitigated by the fact that most of the ore coming out of the Comstock Lode did not come to Carson City because of all the shenanigans that were going on and higher prices paid in San Francisco. Most of that ore was sent by the mining barons of the Comstock Lode to San Francisco, where they had connections and they can get a higher price. So the fact that it was dropping off, yes, it was concern, the silver production, gold production coming out of Comstock Lode, dropping off was a concern. But during this period of time, there were other mining districts that were established in Nevada and in the far eastern side of California, on the eastern side of the Sierras, essentially California-Nevada border. A lot of mining districts that were pumping out their production. They're starting to ramp up their production, which coincided with the establishment of more rail transportation between those outlying sites and Carson City. So, despite the Comstock production going down during this period, the mint was able to easily purchase its need of silver and gold from outlying mining districts that were coming to Carson City via rail that was built during that time. So the Carson City Mint was like a metronome during this period of January 1882 to February of 1885. It was like a metronome producing about 100,000 silver dollars per month. So if you add that up, that's about 1.2 million silver dollars per year for 1882, 1883, 1884, roughly. And then we had some stuff going on here in 1885. Well, the James Crawford, who's the superintendent of the Carson City Mint during this whole time, he passed in March 8th of 1885. Now, also remember, President Grover Cleveland, who's a Democrat, he was elected in November of 1884, and then, of course, the inauguration was in February of 1885. So you had inauguration in February, you had the death of the superintendent, then they replaced the superintendent with a Democrat who changed the chief coining officer and a number of other people. So there's a lot of turnover during this time. Nevertheless, in January and February, they're still able to produce 100,000 pieces in each of those months. But in March 20th, again, February was the inauguration, but by March 20th, there was a cessation of producing silver dollars. This was by order from the highest levels nationally. So by March 20th, Carson City was ordered no more silver dollars for you. And furthermore, by May 8th, they're instructed to stop the purchase of silver. So basically, they shut down Carson City Mint, and it would remain shut down for another 4 years until 1889. So again, it was shut down. All the mint workers were laid off, except for about 18 of them to maintain a basal level, but no production. And essentially, if you're living in Carson City or the local environs, you realize this is a major source of the economy, the mint, railroad coming into the mint, etc. And that was just shut down pretty abruptly with the election of Grover Cleveland and subsequent happenings and orders at that point in time. So that's the background that we were dealing with during this time. One other thing that I will come back to, remember I was saying that that they're producing, Carson City Mint was producing approximately 1.2 million silver dollars per year during this time. But during this whole time, nationally, it was 24 million silver dollars per year, starting with the 78 Bland Altman Act. So there's accumulation of dollars, Carson City dollars in particular, in vaults, and that's eventually what was called the GSA hoard, or General Services Administration hoard, which was sold off between 1972 and about 1983 in multiple segments. This is a list of the GSA inventory for each year for Carson City. These are Carson City dollars that were put away in vaults. So you can see that, and I broke it down into percentages of the original mintage for each of these years. So you can see that really as silver dollars accumulated because of that high production rate, you started having a lot of them put away in vaults. Starting in 1880, 22% were in the GSA hoard, and meaning if they're in the GSA hoard, they automatically survived to 1972 to 1983 when they were sold off. And the peak was about 1884, where 85% of the mintage was laid away in vaults and eventually sold off between 72 and 1972 and 1983. Then after, in the later years, you can see it dropped down to this very feeble amount that were left in the, or were preserved into the GSA hoard. So survival rates are going to be lower here. They're going to be lower here in 79, and then all these 89 to 93, by virtue of not preserving them in the vaults, which was necessitated by this massive production number. All right, so let's get to the coins in the collection. So 1882, the mintage was just under 1.2 million. This was the sixth highest mintage of the Carson City Morgan era. So this is the sixth highest of the 13 mintage dates. And about 54 to 60% survive, depending on, I'm using these figures from Rusty Go's book. And this is the PCGS coin fax number. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, 53% of this original mintage was preserved in the GSA hoard. mostly uncirculated, predominantly uncirculated. So this is mine. It's an MS64. They're not hard to find in that grade. Like down here, 40,000 plus are straight graded at PCGS. More in NGC, or another amount by NGC. And of this mintage, there are 7 VAM varieties. Now, when I say 7, there are 7 numbers. There are there are 7A, 7B, or 2A, 2B, etc. There are based on die stage and other markers, but there are 7 basic VAM varieties, die varieties for 1882. This one happens to be a VAM 2A1, a doubled 882 in the date, clashed, and it's clashed. It's on the hit list 40 for Morgan Dollars. Again, a reminder, I've mentioned this before. I bought this. It's not attributed. I bought it. I looked at the markers. This is what it is. It's a hit list 40. It does. If you look at PCGS price guide, it carries a $45 premium. It would cost me at least that much to send this back and get it attributed. So this will probably stay unattributed in my collection. Of the VAM 2A1s that have been attributed by PCGS, 51 of them have been attributed. So 50 of this original mintage, of this surviving population, 51 have been graded by PCGS as VAM 2A1. There's 20 of them that are MS64s and 17 that are in higher grades. So here's a little bit closer look. You can see a little bit of doubling here at the top of the 2, the top of the 8, a little bit here in this 8. And this marker here has that little die gouge or die scratch, if you will, whatever, depending on size, right here below the first 8. There's other die markers like the clash, these die scratches here, this clash, the clash on the obverse. There's other markers that corroborate the date markers that make this a VAM 2A1. A nice one to have. Again, look for your markers. You may have something that's a little bit less common, or at least you could identify it to a single die variety. In 1883, another MS64 in my collection. Again, 1.2 million-ish. This is the 4th highest mintage of the Carson City Morgan series. GSA, there's 755,000 plus. 63% of the original mintage was put away in vaults and made its way into the GSA hoard. So if you look at the survival rate is 800 to 850,000 according to Rusty Go, maybe a little less. Here, I don't see how the survival rate could be 700,000 according to CoinFacts. This is what's in CoinFacts. But there are 755,000 that are put away in the GSA. So this number is not accurate. But one thing to look at here, 63% of the mintage was put into the GSA hoard, or into the vaults that made its way to the GSA hoard, right? Well, that means only 2 to 8% of the original mintage is represented in this survival rate. So most of the survivors are from the GSA hoard, predominantly. There were 5 VAM varieties, primary die varieties for 1883 Carson City. This is a 5 VAM 5B, which is a double date and a CC over CC doubling. The graded population, there's 55,000 plus straight graded by PCGS. Remember, they don't list details grades. And there are 18,000 plus, sorry for the typo there, 18,000 plus that are MS64 and 14,370 that are higher grades than that for this. Why? Because the GSA, and they are mostly uncirculated. So there's a lot of pretty fine examples that came out of the GSA horde that graded pretty nicely. So this one here has the doubling, which you can see here on the 1, the 8 here. This die crack is another marker. It has a doubled here, double here, so it's a doubled CC. You can also see a little bit thickening here and here. So doubled CC and the double date. The other unique die feature or die marker for this VAM is this die gouge in the wing. So this die gouge, it starts here and comes across here, is a key marker for this particular VAM. There's other markers too, like this this die work, this die abrasion work here at the tip of the eagle's left wing, and the die cracks like this obverse die crack, which I showed you earlier. And there's this United and States. There's a die crack that runs across the top of that. There's also clashes. There's a clash here, that are also part of this particular VAM. All right, 1884. This one here is the highest survival rate. Nearly 1 million of these survive. And 1,136,000, not quite the 1.2 million average of 100,000 a month, but still 1,136,000, which was the 5th highest mintage of the Carson City Morgan era. Again, look at the survival rate, about close to 1 million, at least 980,000, 985,000. Because of the GSA, nearly 1 million of these were in the GSA horde, mostly uncirculated. So 85% of this mintage was put away in vaults and made its way to the GSA horde. Only 2% to 3% of the original mintage was put out there at the time and in circulation or what have you that survived to this day. Most of the survivors are GSA. There are 9 primary VAM die varieties. This one is a VAM 2, which is a doubled 1-8 at the top of the 1 and the 8. There are 60,771 of these that are straight graded by PCGS. The MS64 that I have is one of 21,188 graded the same, and there's only there are 13,471 that are graded higher. So a lot of these survive, a lot of them uncirculated, a lot of them getting pretty fair grades. Here is the VAM 2 with the doubling. You can see the one doubling of the 1 here. There's some doubling here. This die crack is also a die marker. And then there's doubling in the left C of CC. There's doubling here, which is another die marker for this particular die. So look at your die markers there. There's interesting things to be found. Then we get to 1885, and remember, the mint had been swimming along at 100,000 silver dollars a month, and even into January and February of 1885, 100,000 each of those months. But in March, remember, they are told to stop producing silver dollars. We're shutting down silver dollar production at Carson City Mint. They produced 28,000 in March prior to that March 20th date. So 228,000. That's the lowest mintage of the Carson City Morgan era. But 155 to 168,000 of these, 68 to 74% of this original mintage survive because of the GSA. There's 65% of them that were put away in the GSA. So you would think this is the lowest mintage, so this should be the most rare. No, it's about survival rate. And in this case, with the Carson City Morgans, it's about how many ended up in a vault as opposed to going out into people's hands in circulation. And so there's a sizable number. So consequently, there you would think the lowest mintage, lowest survival rate. No, there are 5 dates in the Carson City Morgan series that have lower survival rates because of their GSA put away versus this. This is much higher. There are only 3 main VAM die varieties. This is the VAM 3. The CC mint is tilted left. There's this is a 65. Again, GSA, higher grades put away. So this is a 65. 27,200 are straight graded total by PCGS. This one has a population in 65 of 4,843 with 2,043 higher grades. Here's a look at that left tilted. You can see it's not straight up and down. I tried to align this so this straight up and down would be pointing straight up. So see, both CCs are tilted left, plus there's some die scratches or die what have you within this both C's, and then it has on the obverse has this key die marker, these die gouges near the eye, which clearly identifies a VAM3. So there you have it. Those are the 4. Let's take a look at them with some live video before I come back and summarize. All right, and here they are, starting with the 1882. This is probably my favorite of this bunch. They're all similar grade, but this one I think has a little bit cleaner cheek. It's got not fully reflective fields, but there's a hint, and it's a really nice coin in hand. There's the obverse and the reverse. Got right in focus here. All right, and the 83, next up, also a 64, and there we go. Because of the survival rates, these coins are more affordable in higher grades because there's just more of them, opposed to what we saw with the Seed of Liberty and some of the trade dollars where there's very little survival rate, or even some of the other CC Morgans that weren't put away in the GSA. All right, so there you have it for the 83. Now for the 84, also 64. It's a pretty nice one as well compared to the others. Yep, when you hold it in the light, it has a little cameo to it, a little bit. You have it in hand. Nice luster. And there it is one more time. And last is the 85, which has the highest grade of these four, but really, I mean, you're nitpicking a little bit, and I think this one probably grades very similar. It's got a nice cheek, nice fields. Nice luster to it. And there's the reverse. All right, so there they are, the four, 82, 83, 84, 85, Carson City. All right, so hopefully you like those, and I just thought of a couple of other little stories as I get into the summary here. First, remember 1884, there's about 1 million surviving specimens of this mintage. And here's a little story. In 1958, at the Washoe County Fair, Washoe County is in Nevada and encompasses Reno and the northwest border of Nevada. Washoe County Fair, at their horse racing there, their pari-mutuel windows, the horse racing was supported by Harold's Club that year in 1858. Harold's Club ordered a bag of 1,000 silver dollars from San Francisco, stored in a vault there. They're Carson Cities, and they give them to the pari-mutuel window as change and such, or part of if you won, you also get one of these silver dollars. Well, they're in 1958. This is before the GSA hoard, so they're not thought to be that common, and you get a 1884 CC for about $2.50 in 1858. But imagine, we're just going to give these away as change at the pari-mutuel windows at the horse races at the county fair. And the other story here in the 1885 that I forgot to mention is, and it applies to all of these to a certain extent, but this one in particular, this is probably one of the harder ones to find in circulated condition, because they produced them, the mint was shut down. They took those things and said, let's send them, we're sending all of our bullion and all the coins that are in our vault. You have to send them back to New York, and where they're mostly stored back there. Not many of them circulated, so it's very hard to find these in a circulated. If you're putting together a circulated set of Carson City Morgan dollars, this one could be a little bit tough to find. So there you have it. You have the three of the more common to find in mint state grades and nice examples in the Carson City Morgan series, and then the beginning of a 4-year shutdown of the Carson City Mint. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this part. Next part, we'll be bringing you 1889 to 1993, so the final years of the Carson City Mint production of silver dollars. So until next time, remember, be smart about what you buy, but definitely buy stuff you like. Bye-bye.